Welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. I'm your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. I'm passionate about helping entrepreneurs and their leadership teams get what they want out of business and life. On the show, I invite successful business owners and expert speakers to share their successes. They are open and honest about the highs and lows of business and also life as a business owner. We want to share those learnings with you to inspire you, but also to help you avoid some of the common mistakes. My hope is that you take something from each of these short episodes that you can put into action to help you get what you want, not only out of your business, but also your life. So, welcome to another episode of Better Business, Better Life. Today, I am here with Stanley Henry, who is the MD, which he says is the misfit and dreamer of The Attention Seeker, which is an agency that specialises in sort of the whole B2B and LinkedIn space. Is that right?
That's it. Yeah.
Well, welcome. Lovely to have you here.
Great to be here.
So Stanley and I actually originally met at a place called the Chatham, which is a private business club here in Auckland. Yep. And it was a 4 p.m. Friday drinks, and we just happened to get chatting. And from there, things have progressed. That was a number of months ago now. Yeah. And you've got a really interesting story, which I'd love you to share with the listeners.
Yeah.
But before we get started, I'd love to hear your professional and personal best so they can get a bit of a sense of who Stanley really is.
Yeah, cool. Well, starting with the personal best, that one's pretty easy for me. That was giving up alcohol for a year at the end of 2017. I gave it up for the whole of 2018.
Yep. That
year changed my whole perspective on life. Coming from hospitality, which we'll learn about more later, that was part of my job title, is to drink, right? Like that's what you did. And so giving up for a year completely transformed who I was. And I would not definitely be sitting right here right now if I hadn't have done that year. I was on a very different path in life. So that was definitely my professional best. It completely gave me the space to be where I am and fix my relationship with just not my partner, but my family, everyone. Yep. And then professional best was actually starting this business. It was something I'd always wanted to do. I'd started little businesses in the past. I had a little clothing line over in the UK and little things like that, just random stuff, but I never stuck to any of it. Yep. I didn't have the perseverance to keep going. You'd get somewhere, things would get hard and you'd quit and go back to work and whatever. So this is the first time I really persevered, which ties into the no alcohol.
Because that's interesting.
My brain was way clearer.
Yep.
So I was able to stick at it. I didn't have that need to just deal with stress with alcohol, which then gave me an escape to get out of what I was currently doing, and I'd self-sabotage and all that sort of stuff. So that's, they sort of connect a little bit. Yeah.
And you still don't drink, that's right, isn't it? You've kind of given up.
I gave up again. I drank again for about a year and a half. Not much, just here and there. I did it to prove I had beaten the addiction. Yep. And I got to October last year. It was an election night. We had a few drinks. And I decided the next day I had the first hangover I'd had in 3 years probably. And I was like, what am I doing? This is a waste. So I just decided at that point, I'm just going to give up. And so I'll do it for at least another year. Yep. And then it might be special occasions or whatnot, appreciate the drink. I really do enjoy a really good scotch or a really good wine. So to be able to enjoy that again will be good.
Yes.
But it's just not something that I need in my life and I don't miss it anymore.
Fair enough. So the benefits obviously around clarity and
health, relationship, especially right now building a business, it's a massive positive for me because there's so much. Whenever I drink, I get a real cloudy mind or I get distracted and go in different ways. Yep. Even when I'm networking, if you're having a drink, you don't quite have the same ability to have conversations with people as well because my mind's a bit shifty everywhere.
Not so present.
So, it's just been, there's just so many positives. I could talk about it all day, but, I'm also one of those people, I used to work in hospitality, so I understand the drinking culture and I love it. I love being around, we met at a 4 o'clock drinks and I love being there in the environment.
Yep.
I just don't need to consume it for myself, but I love being around other people when they are and enjoying themselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not a good thing for me to do to the same level.
I'm actually on day 3 of a month of no alcohol. Yeah. So I'm giving up for a month before my birthday. And then I will definitely have a drink on my birthday.
Nice.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. So you've got a really interesting story because you actually come from the hospitality industry, as you indicated. So tell us a little about, what you were doing and how you got to be to where you are now.
Yeah, so I worked in hospitality for about 15 or so years. Yep. I started off at the Sky Tower. I was up at the Observatory restaurant, the buffet restaurant. That was my first job. That was classic. I'm at uni, need some money. Yep. But then I took off to Australia, sort of ran away from problems here in New Zealand, took off to Australia and fell back into hospitality. It was the only jobs I could get. At the time, I was young, 21, and I had a really, really good boss, and he ended up becoming a really good friend of mine, a really good mentor, Vikas. And he pulled me aside one day and just said, what are you doing with your life? Like, do you want a career? Is this going to be a career where you just hit a party? What's the deal? He's like, and I said, look, I'd love to do more. I just didn't realize I had a choice. I didn't realize there was anyone saw that in me either, that I could be something.
Okay.
And he said, look, if you want it, I'll do it, but you got to commit. And so I went away for the day, thought about it. Don't know why. I took a day to figure it out. Went back and said, look, let's do this. I want this. And so he just progressively put me in harder and harder positions until I just learned more and more. And then I eventually worked. I had 11 positions in 12 years, I think it was. And my last role was I was general manager of a hotel in Melbourne. So, I had some pretty cool roles, looking after like 200 staff, 15 million so revenue, things like that. And, I sort of say that now, and I meet a lot of business owners who've got quite good businesses, and they're like, really, like that much revenue at that age? And like, it's kind of I didn't quite realize at the time the gravity of what I was doing. Now that I'm in my own business, I'm like, well, I'd love a $15 million revenue to look after now. So I didn't really understand the gravity of what I was doing, but it taught me so much. In hospitality, you have to do everything. And
what were the biggest challenges? Because that's a huge number of staff for a young person, and budget-wise as well. So what were the biggest challenges in general manager role?
My biggest challenges, so in the start of about 6 months into my general manager position is when I first gave up alcohol for the first time. My biggest challenge was to separate myself away from the peers, or I guess staff is probably the better way to do it. I used to think of them as peers and professional peers, but I had to realize that I was so much more than that now. And it wasn't to be arrogant. It was just that they looked at me differently. I was no longer just Stan, one of their mates as F&B manager or whatever. I was now the GM, and I would talk to staff who are new and young, or F&B attendants or whatever, and I talked to them in a way that I would talk to anyone normally, but I forgot the gravity the power and authority that my position held. And that was a real struggle, and I probably ruined a few relationships, or maybe slowed the development of people because I didn't respect the office I held. And once I figured that out, it was way better, because then I could give people more, actually, because I could give them what they needed. And it's hard to explain, but I had to stop being just one of the lads almost, and be the leader that these people needed.
Absolutely.
And that was a massive turning point. It was a real challenge at first, but when I figured that out, it changed a lot.
And is that sort of a learning you're going to take into your own business now as well?
Yeah, massive. Like, I even still may make some mistakes now about it. Like, the first day of one of my new staff, when she started, our office is half home, half office. And on her first day, we made jokes about how, doors open at 9 because Claire's probably still naked. So dumb. Like, when I think about it now, it's just such a stupid thing to have said. For her, she was obviously like, who is Claire? I don't even know that's your partner.
Right.
Did the staff come in and get naked? Like, what's going on? Where have I started? Where is this place? It's first day, and you can imagine like how nervous she felt at that point. So I put her in a really compromised position, which was just so stupid. And it was just because I wasn't thinking the gravity or the authority my position held as the owner of this company. And so that was a big learning. That was, again, it was as a throwback to what I used to do as a GM. It's just one of those things, like, as long as, Stan, you want to be friends with people, but you are also their boss.
And so they look up to you. You're the leader, right?
That's it. You're the leader. So there is something there that you've got to make sure you keep that distance, not to close the relationship, but you've got a different relationship to peers. So my staff will talk to each other maybe in that way, and they can have those jokes, but I can't do the same style of joke. It's just not right. So it's something I'm continually remembering.
Fantastic. Now, you started back, when was it? October 2019. It was just yourself at that point. First of all, what on earth possessed you to go from what I assume would be quite a well-paid job in a great environment in Melbourne to go and start your own business?
There was always a need to do something myself. Like, I've always had that entrepreneurial sort of spirit. I've had multiple little hustles on the side and around the place, but it was always something I wanted to do. And to tell you the truth, the silly idea that goes inside my head is that one day there's going to be technology that allows us to live forever. and I'm not going to be able to afford it on a salary. I'm going to need to be super rich to be able to do it, and I'm not going to get super rich unless I own my own business.
Right.
That's honestly, that's honestly what goes through my head. So it's just a way of like, I needed to do this.
Yes.
I needed to prove I could do it, or prove that I couldn't do it. I needed to know, was it viable or not? And I was in a right good space because I wasn't drinking. And so the time was right.
Right.
I had achieved what I wanted to in hospitality. I would have just continued on that path and kept going. Yep, money was great. We had a great apartment. We had a great life. Claire had a great job. It was a decision that was like, all right, if we don't do this, let's get settled.
Yeah.
Let's really put some roots in somewhere and, do the married, kids, buy a house, that life.
Mm-hmm.
And neither Claire and I were ready for that. It's just not what we wanted. We're not those sorts of people.
Yeah.
So all those things rolled together was like, all right, let's do it. And then the inciting sort of incident was my owners of my hotel called me while I was away on holiday, and in emails, just abusing that I wasn't there looking after the hotel. Even though the hotel had great staff, we'd smashed every record we'd ever set in January, and yet they were just mad that I left my post.
Yep.
They wanted me there no matter what, even though it'd been 2.5 years since I'd taken a holiday. So I was like, why are we doing this? Like, I put in all my effort into this role. I treat this hotel like I own it. Yet this is how we're treated. This is always going to be that. Let's do it. And then the next day, after we decided that, my brother emailed me and my other brothers saying, hey, we're going out on our own. We started a brokerage. If anyone wants a job, let me know. I'd love to help you guys build your own business. And so me and Claire were like, well, that's a sign if we ever seen one. So we took it. Things got to where they were.
Yeah.
Claire decided to do that. I decided to go out on my own, knowing I couldn't do that and probably shouldn't have worked with my brother, which is probably for the better. But I also had so much other stuff I wanted to do. I couldn't just do one thing. I needed to let my mind play a little bit and talk to people and see. October we moved back to New Zealand and kicked it off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now we've got 6 people and we're looking for new premises and you still got two job offers at the moment, or 2 jobs out there at the moment, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it. So it's been pretty wild ride. We're growing pretty fast.
Yep.
So we got looking for 2 staff at the moment, and potentially 3, but we're sort of bringing the creative side of our business in house.
Yeah.
We need premises because our current half office, half home's not going to be big enough for.
Especially not with naked Claire's around.
Not with naked Claire's in it. So we definitely need somewhere bigger and just a better environment for the team as well. A place they can call their own as well, that they can come and go as they need. I know that that's really important for them. They mostly work from home, but they need a space that they can call their own, and it's not my house as well. So it's really important. But we're definitely looking to grow. I reinvest everything we earn. So, I pay myself a salary, and outside of that, everything else just goes back into to grow it.
Yeah.
I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it for the growth. Actually, I want the biggest team I can get. I want to get back to that 200-person team I used to have.
Yes.
So that's
why. What do you like about managing a team?
Oh, I love leading people.
Yeah.
I love watching people grow.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my favorite moments or some of my best memories of hospitality are seeing ex-employees leave and go off and do amazing things. We've got some of staff who've opened up award-winning restaurants, or some have gone on to become general managers and things. And when I first met them, you could see the spark in them, but they hadn't quite had the leader to mold them and put them in the right way. And not that I was the be-all and end-all, but I like to think that there was a part of what I did help them through that journey.
Mm-hmm.
And also when they're with us, when they're with you, just seeing them grow from someone maybe shy and doesn't come out of the shell to someone who's complete boss and takes over everything. I just love it. I don't know. There's just something about leading people is the most fun I have in my role.
Yeah.
I would do it all day long if I could. And it's where I hope to get to in my role, is just have a team I can just do that with.
Yeah. So, people looking from the outside in will go, wow, that's amazing. You've gone from 1 person to potentially 9 people in under 2 years. Has it all been a bed of roses? Has it all been, it's easy, right? We just grow like that.
Nah, not at all. And it's still not.
Yes.
Growing pains are a thing. So that's, as you grow, there's heaps of challenges. Yep. But even just in the beginning, we all had COVID and all of us had that to go through. That was tough. first 6 months, wiped off all my business, everything I'd been building, start again. And then as it built, and I took on some more people and I got some staff on board, there was other challenges. There was challenges, okay, now we've sold all this. How do we deliver it? Do we have the process for it? We're figuring out things as we go.
Yeah.
There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in small business that, yep, we can do it. You sell the dream of what you can do, not what you're currently doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to do that because you can do it, but you just haven't been paid the money yet to do it.
Yeah.
And so you just have to sell that you can, get it, and prove it along the way. That's my model. There is a model, obviously, do it slower and steadier and safer. I get it. In hospitality, I've always run and rolled with the punches. So I've been able to always flex like that and move. But for me, one of the biggest things was that start of this year, we launched some new products. We sold lots of them. We took a lot of clients on, and it was too many, to the point where my staff were saying, Stanley, if you sell any more, we're quitting. Like, we're out. And I said, okay, let's slow down. But then at the same time, I decided to hire a new staff member to sell more, a salesperson, my first salesperson. And there was just a lot of dumb decisions at the time that I probably should have taken it slower. And so it was real hard. And sometimes too much business is just as bad as not enough. Mm-hmm. And I was on the borderline of that.
Okay.
I pulled through, obviously. We got to here. But it was a real good lesson to go, yep, moving fast is good.
Yeah.
And taking those risks is great. But taking 5 at one time is stupid.
Yes.
Doing 1 or 2 at a time is great. Take that risk, hire that person when maybe you don't yet have the revenue to support them full on.
Yeah.
But doing multiple people plus new projects and new services and all this sort of stuff all at the same time, that's silly. And I made all those decisions isolated as opposed to thinking of it holistically. So that's the biggest lesson I've learned so far. Just when you make a decision, before you act, I've got this thing on my computer now. It's a wiki in my Teams, and I put all my business ideas down that I've got.
Yep.
And I just put them in there and I dump them in, and then I leave it. And if I come back and read it, it's probably worthwhile investigating. But there's a few on there now that I've just put in, walked away and forgot all about them.
Yep.
But before I would have went, oh, this is that. We need to go do this and tell everyone to start doing something.
You strike me as being a typical, we call a visionary. Yeah. And we always describe a visionary as being the person who is absolutely essential for the business, right? The business wouldn't even be here, and it certainly wouldn't grow without them. But they're the one that goes around the weekend and comes back and goes, oh, I've got this fantastic idea. We're now going to sell stuffed elephants. And of course, the whole team jumps in and starts building stuffed elephants. And then you come back a week later and go, actually, I decided stuffed elephants weren't the way to go. We're now going to do stuffed pigs, And so it's very, it can be really inspirational. People get behind visionaries because of the strong vision they've got, but it can actually be quite destructive in terms of the team not knowing what's real and what's not.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was definitely where we were, even just 3 or 4, maybe 4 months ago, 3 or 4 months ago. We were at that point. I was right on the border. If I had pushed any harder, we would have crossed it and it would have been over. I was luckily in the middle of it all, I realized what I'd done.
Yep.
And a lot of that's thanks to people like yourself and Drew and things that we always meet and we talk a lot. We've got a real strong network of people who are in business. So hearing other people's stories, I was able to reflect on my own. Yeah. I think if I was doing it isolated without people around me, I would have not seen
imploded.
Yeah. Because I couldn't have seen it. Yeah. I couldn't have seen what I was doing, but because I heard other people's talking about stuff, I was like, oh, I'm doing that too. Yeah. Damn it.
So it's interesting. What sort of support structures have you got around you? Obviously, we have our peer groups, which is great. What have you done? What have you changed? I suppose because you're in real danger of actually imploding and people walking out on you. Yeah. So what did you do to change that and start bringing structure in place?
Yeah, I made the decision that we were going to do less revenue for a couple of months. I understood that was just going to be something I had to take all the profits I had earned and use that to sustain us for 2 months without trying to take on too many any new clients. So that was the first thing: is slow the business down, slow the intake of clients. So that was step 1. Step 2 was to really, really work on process. Just completely rip apart all the process, all the systems, everything we did from an operational point of view, and just pull it down to the most minute details. And we joke about how I made my staff list, grab the mouse with your right hand, put your finger on your left finger on the clicker, click the mouse, stuff like that. And we broke it down so granular so we could find out all the steps we could remove. And so mouse clicks as an example, we can use tools like Zapier to remove all those mouse clicks.
Yeah.
They're not needed.
And it also removes that error as well, right? Because anything that requires a human involvement can actually lead to error.
Yeah, it can lead to error. You forget to do it, or you get busy and you can't do stuff. And so the more we can streamline that process and put these, I guess, operating systems in your language together, is it made everything work a lot better. So my team were no longer stressed. They could turn around clients faster, which was better service for the customer, but also better for the business, because then as we turn those clients around, their monthly retainers kick in. And so that setup process of getting them onboarded went from, we're at one point we're at 6 to 8 weeks getting them on board, to now realistically we can probably turn them around in 2 weeks now.
Okay.
And so that means that for me, the revenue's better because month 2 starts faster than what it did before, So all that sales you did, you start, and that's better for the business, and your monthly retainers start skyrocketing, and which allows you to think, okay, now I've got this much monthly retainers that are locked in for at least this period of time. Let's hire some staff to keep the growth happening.
Yeah.
So that was definitely a big piece. And then my support network, there was lots of community. I think when I tell people the amount of communities I'm a part of and fully invested in, they're always quite surprised. They might say, "Oh, I've got my BNI, or I've got this network," and I'm like, "Yeah, I've got my BNI, my New Zealand Leaders, my North Harbour Connector, my Asia Network, my Friday 4 o'clocks." I've got, and it's not just that I'm an attendee. I don't just turn up.
No, you're really an active
part of it.
Yeah. So how do you manage that then? Because there is a strong time commitment there.
Yeah.
Do you have a method for making sure that you can commit that time?
Yeah, I think so. So my main role in the business is obviously sales and strategy.
Yeah.
So they always so there's sales, strategy, and then the community part, and that's really all my time. And so, strong calendar is just paramount. You can't do it without using a calendar for everything.
Yeah.
Blocking out the time you need. So I always have my email blocks.
Yes.
Morning and afternoon. Lunch is always blocked out because I love to eat. And having everything I need. And then so I only have about 5 hours a day I can block out with clients.
Yeah.
Obviously, if it's a discovery session, it's going for 4 hours. I might go over lunch, but that's okay because we'll have lunch at the session.
Yep.
And then once that's all in place, the networking, if you do it right, should be regular and expected.
Yes. So BNI for you is every Friday morning, and Asian Networks once a month, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know when they are.
Yeah.
So they're already in your calendar.
Yeah.
And so all your other meetings are just around it.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that process was getting a really strict sales process. With the sales process we have now, we had Alex McNaughton come on and help us put that together, is that we never not know where someone is. We never have something booked in. We never not have something booked in with a prospect.
So it's always the next step.
Always a next step.
Yep.
Always a clear future of what's happening next. And that means we never have to sit around going, where do we go?
Yeah.
We just got to turn up to the meeting.
Yeah.
There's a meeting booked. After
so
that
it's
meeting,
a process again, really, isn't it?
All process.
Yeah.
Everything's process.
And I suppose, working with a number of clients, they often want to get into huge amounts of detail, which is admirable, but then they kind of get stuck because they're waiting for it to get to 100% perfect before they actually go out there and do something with it.
Yeah.
We always say, hey, look, think about the 20% of the processes that actually offer the most value to your business.
Yeah.
And then if you get those right, it'll give you 80% of the results. Is that similar in your business?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, 100%. Even when you're breaking down the process, I get the staff to break it down probably the last. So I'll do the 20% with them.
Yep.
That gets them the most, and then they'll do the rest of the 80 over time.
Yep.
And you're never going to get all the 80. They'll keep on tweaking it because we'll improve it, because we'll get it and we're like, oh, that's great, we got there, but we could do this better, so let's add that in.
Yep.
Asia Network's a really good example. That's a monthly cycle for us and the team. And we're constantly changing that process all the time, just taking it to another level. What more can we do? How much better? Last time, it seems silly for us now, but last month was the first time we had a microphone for the speakers.
Okay.
It just seems, well, you've got speakers every month, just things like that you don't see, you can't see it, but you just keep improving.
Yeah.
But the 20% I took care of,
and
that built the Nesian into what it is.
Yes.
Now the team are really refining the 80 and going to continue.
So how do you keep track of those things? So I remember when I used to run the event center, I had a very high standard that I wanted to run things at. And so I literally started that process of, this is what you need to do. So when you come into the room, you need to make sure that the diffusers are on. You need to make sure that all of the books are laid out in a certain way. I mean, I got quite anal about it, but that's because I wanted to have a great experience. We just did it with literally a checklist that somebody had to go through and kind of tick off as they're working through it. Yeah. And that worked because in an event space, they are physically on the floor. It was easy to have a piece of paper and a pen. Yeah. What do you use to keep track of because they are always changing. And then what I found was that checklist changed as we recognise more things that we could do to improve it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the first piece to that puzzle, if we're thinking events, is three of us, me, Claire and Alicia, all come from this world. So for a lot of it, it's second nature to us because we've done so much of it. Mm-hmm. But you're not always going to be there though, right? No, we're not. And so it was helpful that Alicia sort of owns that process now. Yep. And Claire, more that she works in the business, that is her whole background. She's done every major event you can think of. She's done it all, from movie premieres to all sorts. So there's a innate ability there just from experience. Yep. But it's just a constant. We have a BEO, a banquet event orders, or an event order. Yep. We don't really do banquets, I suppose. But that's just old terminology from hotel days. So we have a template we use now. Alicia populates it. We all add to it. We have a group chat where everything goes in. The Nesian goes into our project management tool with all our other clients, so it gets treated like a client. Yep. So it's not just something we do on the side; it's properly part of it. It's a client we serve. That's how we think of it. But still, there is so much that we have to do. We're still only probably 50% of it figured out. Yeah. So to your point, the 20% of it is rock solid. Yep. We know we can run a good event. Yes. That's good. The 80%, the finesse is not anywhere near done. Yeah, there's so much over time. Yeah, always. Yeah. But I think you made a really valid point there, and we talk about right people, right seats. Having somebody whose innate ability enables them to do the job is really important as well. You know, you need to have somebody who actually gets it, really wants to do it, and has that capacity to do it as well. Yeah. And Alicia is to Drew's models here, she's a producer. She just loves to tick stuff off and get it done. And you give her a list of things to done, and they'll be done before you can hand the rest of the list over. She just gets through stuff. Yes. So she's the right person to do that. I'm the right one to think of what are the possibilities that we can come up with. But we've learned now, when I think of those possibilities, I have to sit with her and hand them over properly. Yeah. And so our project management tool, which all our clients go in, that's a new thing for us in the last few months, where the salesperson and the strategy person sits with the account manager, and they're not allowed to leave that conversation until the account manager takes ownership of the person, until they're like, I 100% know what I need to do moving forward. Yeah. Because it used to be just like, hey, I've signed Debra, this is that, she needs this, can you make it happen? And they're like, make what happen? Exactly. Yep. And so now it's like, no, Stan, tell me everything that's in your head step by step. Yep. And we put that in. And so the same thing happens with Nesian and all sorts. And once Alicia has that, she's like, I'm away, running. Yeah. So process and people. Yep, absolutely. Okay, cool. Now, obviously, you do have a personal life. You've mentioned your partner, Claire, and whatnot. How do you make sure that your business doesn't completely take over your life? There's a couple of things here. One is that it is so much fun for me. Yep. So it is how it's my entertainment as well. So that's something that a lot of people don't understand as well. Like a lot of people, business isn't there. It's a means to an end. Mm-hmm. For me, it's what I want to do for fun. Yep. I want to do business. And if it's not doing my business, it's doing other people's business or, that. So that's the first thing. So for me, my downtime playing in business is fun for me. Yep. But obviously that's not for Claire. Mm-hmm. And so Claire's not at all a business person. She works to work. And so I have to be able to, allocate time with her, as in turn off at this time. Yep. Okay, dinner's ready, turn the computers off, go back to Claire. Weekends, we often will allocate things, we'll plan stuff, do stuff. And then also Claire's really good at understanding where we are in this business journey, to say, look, we're building for a future where we do, like the old cliche of entrepreneurship, right? Like we're doing the things no one else will do, so we can do the things that no one else can later on. Yeah. And so she understands that idea, and because we've had some success to date, she can see that future really clearly now. So she's given me the space to work more than maybe what she would like me to. Yeah. With the promise that, we start to pull back. And we already have. Now that we've got the process and we've got more staff, I don't have to execute as much as I used to at the beginning. Yep. I was doing all the stuff I do now plus execution. So now I don't. And so, I would probably only actually work in the business maybe 50 hours a week. Like I actually don't work heaps.
Yeah.
None of my meetings start before 10 a.m. unless there's something really urgent, but very rarely does that ever happen. And no meetings after 4 as well. So that's my email times, and that which means I can close off my day. I always close off the day. That's a big thing.
Okay,
so that
tell me what that means.
So that means there's nothing pending that hasn't got something in the calendar.
Yeah.
So if I can't get it done today, then I need to be honest with the client, tell them when it is due.
Yeah.
Or so I need a due date on stuff not getting done today.
Mm-hmm.
That way, when I stop and I have dinner with Claire, my mind's with her. Yeah. Because if you're still trying to close off the day, you won't sleep.
I actually, something similar, but I do at the end of the evening, I actually plan out my next day as well. So that when I go to sleep, I'm not suddenly waking up at 3 a.m. going, oh my goodness, I've forgotten that I need to do that. So I
think it's so important.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Hey, look, I could talk to you for hours, but we're kind of coming to the end of the podcast. In terms of, we like to give some really practical tips and pragmatic tips people can actually use in their everyday business. So what are the 3 tips you'd like to share with the listeners?
Yeah, I think for me, what my 3 big things that helped my career was really developing my reputation and personal brand. And it's obviously what we do as a business, but we do it as a business because it works, and it's worked for me, and it's really helped my business grow. It's the reason we've grown.
Because you didn't actually have the networks and things when you first came back from Australia, did you?
No, I'd been gone for 12 years. I had no networks.
Okay.
And so it was like literally zero. I knew a handful of students. What am I talking about? School friends.
School friends, yeah.
School friends.
Okay. Yeah.
So it was just network, build up your personal brand, both in person and digital. They work combined, which then is the second point, is network the hell out of everything. Like don't think networking is this weird thing you have to do and stand in a corner. Like it can be really fun and really collaborative if you just put your effort into it. I'm super introverted. I hate going to networking events still, but once I'm there, so the hour beforehand I always fret about it, but once I'm there and I realize like, oh, this is great, these are a bunch of business people and I love business, let's talk business. It gets really fun, and there's other things you can talk about. You don't talk about business. And the third thing is process. Like take your business and pull it apart in terms of the process and just map it down to the most minute detail. And you'll find that a lot of people, a common thing, and you'll see this in your business, is that I'm too busy, I've got too much to do, I'm always stuck at work and all these sorts of things. I work 100 hours a week, whatever. And it's because you haven't mapped out your process. And because you haven't mapped it out, you can't hand it over.
And I said it's also about having the right person you can hand it over to too. So you can get those 2 things right. That's when you can really let go. Exactly.
And to double that out on that same tip is when you hand it over, trusting the person that you give it to. You can always put out a fire. Just give them the trust them to do their job. If they're external, if they're internal, whatever, just give it to them. If they make a mistake, fix it. You can always fix it. Like you can always get more customers if you really screw up a customer. But if you don't trust the other person, you're never going to be able to hand it over. It's always going to be there. And then what's the point? You should have just done it yourself.
Exactly. I love it. Perfect. Thank you. Hey, look, if anybody wants to get in contact with you about the work you do at Attention Seeker, what's the best way to get hold of you?
Just jump on LinkedIn. And if you're in Auckland, you'll probably not stop seeing me everywhere. But just search Stanley Henry on LinkedIn. Otherwise, theattentionseeker.com.
Okay, fantastic. Well, look, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I look forward to catching up with you throughout the journey. And hopefully we can get some EOS put in there as well.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Okay.
Cool. Thanks,
Stanley.
Cheers.
Thanks again for joining us on Better Business, Better Life with me, your host, Debra Chantry-Taylor. If you enjoyed what you heard, then please subscribe to this podcast and let us help you to get what you want out of business and life. Each week we release a new short episode which will give a success story and 3 takeouts to put into action immediately. These will help you take your business from good to great. The podcast is also supported by free resources, templates and useful tools which you can find at debrachantrytaylor.com. I am a trained entrepreneurial leadership and business coach, a professional EOS implementer, and an established business owner myself. I work with established businesses to help them get what they want. Feel free to contact me if you'd like to have a chat about how I might be able to help you, or if you'd like to join me as a guest on this podcast. Thanks again to NZ Audio Editors for producing this podcast. See you on the next episode.